Hi, Beth Whiteside here. I'm just going to give you a quick demo of how to do the crochet technique for casting on that is used on these knit-along coasters. I like to use this technique because it makes a nice substantial set of initial stitches that then you can slip off of the crochet hook and onto your knitting needle, and they're held in place by the sliding loop center a little more securely than they are if you do a regular cast on and are trying to juggle the stitches on your needle while you begin to work that first row. So here's how we're going to start. You've got a crochet hook. If you've never used a crochet hook before or not very familiar, I'd recommend going and chaining, learning how to chain and playing around with it and just getting a feel for the tool itself. I'm right-handed, so I'm holding the hook in my right hand and I'll hold the working yarn in my left hand. If you're left-handed, you'll reverse that. For this technique, you're going to want a crochet hook that will let you slide the stitches we're going to make off of the opposite end, rather than a crochet hook that has a handle, because then you'd have to get the stitches all over the handle, and that doesn't work so very well. Okay. So let's get started. Here's the working yarn with the tail on the left and the piece of the strand of yarn that goes to the ball on the right hand side. I'm going to just form a loop, take the working yarn, the one that goes to the ball, over the top, and the tail is on the left, and then I'm going to drop the working yarn down behind, and then I'm going to use the crochet hook to go into the loop. And we'll be going into the loop from the front to the back all the time in this technique. So then we're going to take the yarn across the crochet hook and pull it to the front. Okay, and then I'm going to use my fingers. I'm holding the stitch I just made, the loop I just made, in place with my right hand. Apologies if I drift to the left. I'm traveling right now and filming this on an iPad, so just trying to give you something to get started with. So I'm holding it with my right index finger, and the yarn itself is over my left index finger and out and under. If you're a continental knitter, it's very similar to the position you use for continental. And then I'm also holding the loop, the strands that we're going to work across, between my thumb and index finger on my left hand. All right, and we're going to be jumping through and back and forth over that strand throughout this whole process. So I've pulled through my one loop, and now I need to anchor that in place by going through it again. So I take the yarn over the hook again, or you could view it as taking the hook under the yarn, whichever your point of view is subject to your own preferences, and I pull through that loop. Okay. And now I've made my first stitch that I've anchored. So now I'm going to repeat that process again. I'm going to take my hook and go through the center of my loop, go under the working yarn, and pull through a loop. I'm going to slide it up here so it's tight, yarn around the hook, pull through the loop to anchor it in place. So there's two steps, and we go in to pull through the initial loop, and then we take, tighten it down, yarn around the hook again, and pull through to anchor it in place. Okay, so here up close, let me see. You can see we're starting to get some stitches there. I've got 3 right now, and I'm going to make 6 more for a 9-stitch coaster. Okay, and each time I'm pulling the yarn tight, the yarn across the loop, the one that makes the new loop, so that my stitches won't be too big, and pull through and make a new one. Here, it's still drifting. Let's see. Let's come back over here. Okay, let's do a few more so you can see. Now, when you first do this technique, it's going to be new, and you might do it a few times in order to get a feel for the tension, for how big these, I'm drifting again, how big these loops should be. You can see they're fairly tight there on mine. The other thing you can do after you've practiced, and once you get to putting them on the sticks, they still feel big and loose and not gripping the way that I said that they would, you can use a smaller crochet hook, and that will make tighter stitches, so that will help. Okay, how many do I have here? Okay, I need to do one more. Okay. My initial loop here was pretty big. It doesn't need to be this big, but whatever's comfortable. Great dramatic effect here then. You'll see I'm pulling the tail. I've already started, and that's cinching things closed. So once I have my number of stitches that I want, I will pull it closed a little bit just to tighten things down a little bit, and then I'm going to pull it again once I get all these stitches onto my double points. So here I'm sliding to the other end of the crochet hook, and I'm picking up my double points, and I'm just going to slip the stitches onto it, trying not to split the plies here. Okay, let's see, 1 and 2 and 3. Something else, well, let's do this first. And if the needles, if you're doing what I'm doing right now and the needles are falling out, you might want to try again, like really falling out easily, you might want to try again. So now I've got something like this. This is now when I pull that tail again. So I'm going to pull it to get that center loop closed a little bit more. And then one more over here to get off of the crochet hook. One, 2, 3. Yay. Okay, bye-bye crochet hook. And now the final cinching closed. And there's my set of stitches. Ta-da! Okay, now it's a little bit tighter than it is if you've just cast on with a long tail and are trying to bring the two ends together and make sure that they're all facing the right way and haven't gotten twisted as the needles want to jumble around. So one other thing I just want to tell you before you go off and try this on your own is that the stitches sit backwards. From the normal Western style of knitting, the stitch mount is backwards. If you can see it there, what's going to become the right side of the stitch is in the back instead of in the front. So what you could have done when you slipped stitches off is you can slip them, turn them as you slip them. I just like to work the first round through the back loop, and that changes everything up. So we're ready to work the first circle and the first coaster. And if this is still a little, you can always tug it a little bit more to get it more tightly there. And there, it's a nice closed circle. All right, see you in the knit along.